cosmic consciousness, extraterrestrials and UFOs, sacred geometry, ancient civilizations, spiritual connection, the quantum universe. All of these topics and so much more with your host, Sev Tuck, on Alien Spirit with Sev.
Hi, welcome to Alien Spirit. I'm Sev. Happy New Year. It's 2025, and I am very pleased to have as my very first guest for the new year, my friend and colleague and mentor, Earl Grey Anderson. Earl has investigated over 1,000 UFO cases. He is MUFON's state director for Southern California. He's also on MUFON's Experiencer resource team. And okay, wait a minute. Let me do that again. I didn't want to mess up resource. It's funny that I messed that up. Hello, welcome to Alien Spirit. I'm Sev. And Happy New Year. It's 2025. And I'm very happy to have as my very first guest for the new year, my friend, colleague, and mentor, Earl Grey Anderson. Earl has investigated over 1,000 UFO cases. He is MUFON State Director for Southern California. He is on the executive committee of MUFON's Experiencer resource team. And he hosts the Experiencer workshops at MUFON's Symposiums. You may have seen Earl on television. He's all over the place on radio and on podcasts. You might have seen him on Ancient Aliens, Storming Area 51. And this is an interesting one. Motor Mythbusters Cars versus UFOs. We have to find out which one won. And he's the featured host on the new TV series, The Alien Disclosure Files. Way to go, Earl. Earl is also featured in the documentaries of Jeremy Norrie, MUFON and UFOs. He's a conference speaker, and he talked at Contact in the Desert last year. Earl teaches a college course in ufology, UFOs and Other Worlds at LA's Otis College of Art and Design. And good news, Earl is currently writing his first book, The Grey Files, which is supposed to be published this year, the new year of 2025. Earl is a native of Southern California, and he's a published singer, songwriter, and guitarist with 3 CDs. Earl likes to dote on his children and his grandchildren, and he lives happily, as he says, in LA with his wife, Lisa, who's a really cool lady, and his cat, Thor, who's a really cool cat. Welcome, Earl Grey Anderson.
Hey there, Sev. So good to see you. My goodness.
Reunion.
Been a while.
Mm-hmm.
We had dinner with Jimmy Church and Paul Hynek last time you were out. That was fun.
Yeah, here's a picture of that. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, that was.
I know I really enjoyed that. And then afterwards we went. We're jumping ahead here, but we were at Paul's house afterwards, and there you are with your. I don't know if
my hero.
Your hero.
He's my hero. Yeah, Dr. J. Allen Hynek.
Yes.
And there's a controversy about. Okay, you see his hand there. Now, what I was told by Paul is that he was holding his pipe. And his wife told the portrait artist, you know what, don't paint that pipe out of there. I don't want him to be holding this pipe in his portrait. And but Joel Hynek, he swears that's just the way his dad used to like to gesticulate with his hands when he would talk. So I don't know which is true. Maybe both. I don't know.
Maybe he had like a perpetual pipe hand.
Maybe, I don't know. It's shaped that way eventually.
Goes there. Yeah.
There's a fun story about his pipe too that Ray Hernandez told me. He used to, and I'll make it quick. We only have an hour here, I guess. But he used to go and speak and visit in Argentina. There was a family there that he was very close with. And just a few years ago, and Hynek's been gone since it's been like a few decades now. But the wife of his friend was smelling the smell of Dr. Hynek's pipe tobacco. She followed the scent over to the easy chair that he used to like to sit in when he was visiting them. And lo and behold, she found his pipe under the chair. But she swears, I mean, she is a meticulous cleaner, and she said it was not there before. So they think that maybe, Dr. Hynek gave them a little sign that he was happy in the afterlife, and, his little hello to them. But I love that story. I got to share that with Paul Hynek too. And he
There's
said,
a word for that. Grant Cameron investigates. There's a word for when something just pops
apport.
out.
It's an apportation. Yep.
I've had apports of feathers. Have you had any?
I've never had an apportation happen. Not yet. I mean, I've seen a UFO and I've met our visitors, once.
Yes.
But
okay, here we go.
We'll go to that. But
Earl Anderson's story. Let's begin at the beginning. Oh. You were born and raised in Southern California.
Venice, California is where we lived until I was 5. 1963, we moved.
And what were you interested in as a kid?
I was very, very strangely obsessed with outer space. I had a little ritual every morning. I would go and climb up the monkey bars in the backyard that we had, and I would wave and I would sing at the sky. And I remember my mom opening the kitchen window and going, "Who are you waving and singing to?" And I said, without even thinking, I said, "The space people, Mom. I'm waving and singing to the space people." And this, I think, is what led to my mom having a conversation with me when I had just started kindergarten. And here, I'll show you guys a picture of my mom. This is
well, I have one right here. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
There you go.
She's
well, that
beautiful.
was my mom, probably about the time when she was working with Howard Hughes. That was my mom's employer. She was one of Howard Hughes's personal secretaries. I guess he had 2, and she was one of them, but her office was next to his. He was a recluse and a bit of a misanthrope, didn't like humans very much. So he kept in his office, and they communicated over an intercom system. All the time she worked for him, and she worked for him over the 1950s, she only saw him once, and she wasn't supposed to. They gave the all clear that he was out of the building, and she's walking out of the building, and he hadn't left the carport hallway yet. And she said he just stood there and it was very, very Chaplin-esque looking. He had his hat on and a briefcase and a cane. He was walking with a cane at this point. And he's shaking his head like, So my mom waited, and he opened the door and left. And that was the only time she ever saw him. And it was the back of his head. But when I was 5 years old, it was after I had that ritual of waving and singing to the space people. And I think my mom, it got her to break her NDAs with me because she was certainly not supposed to talk about it. But she talked about how they took her out with a little security detail to the middle of the great American desert. I'm not sure if it was, Nevada, or if it was could have been White Sands. I heard that there was a facility like this out in White Sands, New Mexico as well, but middle of nowhere. And they didn't give her any preamble of what to expect. She said that all there was this shack, this concrete shack, and they unlocked this thing and they took her in, and it had a elevator, and that was it. That was the only thing in there. She got into the elevator. She knew that she was going down because there was no upstairs to the building. And she said that she thought maybe a floor or 2, and it kept going. And it was going fast to where she felt butterflies in her stomach. Those were her exact words. She said, "I had butterflies in my stomach. I was scared." She had vertigo. She said that the doors of the elevator opened up, and there was a little city under the desert. Now, I've heard other people in officialdom refer to our dumb. This is what the official acronym is, Deep Underground Military Bases. But they call them the cities. And my mom referred to it as a little city under the desert. And she worked there through the 1950s on highly secretive projects. I was getting ready to go to kindergarten that day, and that is when my mom sat down and she told me this. And the way that she ended the conversation was she said, well, son, you're always waving and singing to the space people. And I want you to know that there are space people, that you're going to hear about flying saucers, is what they were calling them back then, flying saucers and intelligent life in outer space. And that is a real thing. We already know. We've made contact. And now it's time for you to go to school. And she sent me out, and, it's over the years, sometimes she would talk a little bit more. I got to where I would kind of pick at her and try to get her to talk a little bit. Sometimes she would, usually not. She did go back to work for the military industrial complex as a corporate headhunter back in the 1970s. And then she really clammed up about this stuff. Once I got cocky and I talked about it at school in front of my class, in fact. And the teacher called her in for a parent-teacher conference. She wanted to know where I had gotten this crazy notion, that my mom had worked under the desert, and that there were UFOs and aliens. And my mom was really upset. That was 5 years after she told me about this. We had the little car ride home, and my mom was just like, how did you remember? You were just a baby. I wouldn't have told you if I knew you were going to remember or talk about it. I'm not supposed to tell anybody. I signed things. And, she said that she could go to prison. And so I never talked about it again in front of people. That scared me. I love my mom very much. But I grew up with that stuff. And that's what led me to become a ufologist. I mean, that's kind of what I am. I guess that Paul Hynek and Joel Hynek kind of say, you and my dad are sort of peas in a pod. He would have loved you, and you do what he did. So I guess I can take that moniker on. But that's what led me to join MUFON and why I have all these cases under my belt. And I'm still obsessed with the space people, Here I am 60 some years later, And I guess theoretically, I'm still waving and singing to the space people, We're doing it right now. Yeah.
You are an experiencer advocate like I am, helping experiencers around the world. Have you seen any interesting shifts in the past year or so in the types of cases that you're getting, or the quantity, more, less, different stories, different beings? Have you seen anything interesting, any patterns?
I haven't really noticed a diversion from the usual pattern. I mean, it's a lot of military people, have the face-to-face stuff. I think there's a reason for that. Usually there's a message given, an anti-nuclear message. People are told that they should love their planet more and not treat it like their trash heap. And it seems to me like there's a lot of concern that's pointed towards this. I don't think this is our visitors' first rodeo. I imagine that this has happened on many worlds, but I think we're maybe a bit of a troubled race because we have such a propensity for war and fighting over the slightest little thing. I mean, that's like an issue out there. I see people, so worried that aliens are going to attack. That was a meme that was going around yesterday. Oh, there's going to be an alien attack. Some woman channeled this thing. And of course there wasn't. But I mean, we're the guys that are shooting at the UFOs. I mean, apparently the military has a shoot them down order. I've got confirmation that that's a thing. So we seem to be the threat in outer space. So far, I haven't really seen any, I mean, people are taken, but they're taken back.
They brought
People have
back, yeah.
visited.
You know, Earl,
Yeah,
I have,
yeah,
in all the experiences I've talked to, 1,000 or more, I have not heard anyone come back with the message, the ET told me to kill somebody, the ET told me to do this, the ET told
no,
me to harm someone. Never.
no,
Never.
no.
So that's why I find it so interesting that people are so afraid. Like I used to be
Yeah.
afraid. It's all brainwashing by society.
Well, you
In
turn on the
actuality,
news and we're the troubled ones.
well,
We're
I
the
call us
troubled
the
ones.
juvenile delinquents of the galaxy. The juvenile delinquents
Yeah.
of the galaxy. That's what we are. That's what I think of ourselves. We have a lot of growing
Yeah.
up to do. All right, this
Yes.
leads us
We're a
into
young
your
race.
own. This leads us into your own experience or story. Let's hear it.
Sure. You want the everything bagel in 1 hour, and I'll do it. Well, I had 10 years ago, I had become a MUFON field investigator. I think at the point that I'd been a field investigator for maybe 6-7 months. I had maybe 30-35 cases under my belt. And I heard about this CE5 meditation thing, and I decided to try it on my own. I wasn't willing to go and pay somebody, thousands of dollars to meditate for me. And, I guess there's a service out there that's sort of like that, but you can do it for yourself. And I'm too tight with my wallet anyway to do that. So I devoted maybe a half an hour every evening for about a week or two. But I didn't just meditate and ask to see a UFO. I said, I want to meet you. I want to meet ETs. I didn't designate which ones. I just kind of sent it out there to the cosmos like we send our TV signals out to the cosmos. I didn't know who, or I really didn't think it would work, to tell you the truth. I was pretty skeptical, but it was worth a try. It was just kind of why not? But anyway, this one evening, it was about midnight, and I had just closed a case, and it was a identified flying object. It was a gold-colored Mylar party balloon that this guy saw.
Oh.
And, it was case number 36 or something. I was feeling my oats, yeah, that's a balloon. And I went upstairs. We lived in Burbank. Wasn't a rural area. This is the heart of Burbank, the real Hollywood. It's where they film all the films. And there you go. That's my old house. Looked like a barn.
It's
and
cute.
We had the little upstairs loft. You can see the
you're
window
up
there.
Here at the very top up there.
Yes, right. But if it had a very high ceiling, and then the house was kind of halved. So all there was on the top floor was just a small bedroom and our bathroom and a little hallway. And the window that you see up front there, that was our big tall ceiling. It was a cool place. It was very kind of stylized. So, but anyway, I went upstairs, and Lisa, my wife, was already sound asleep. She was on my right-hand side, and it was perfectly dark. We keep all the blinds shut and everything, because Lisa is usually not a heavy sleeper. I put a bunch of pillows behind my back because I have back problems. So I was kind of semi-recumbent position. If you're a nurse or a medical person, they call it semi-Fowler's position. Not quite, sitting up, but not quite lying. I wasn't lying flat. So I could see what was in front of me, and I was just getting comfortable. I was not asleep. This was not sleep paralysis. A very strange thing happened. Our room started filling with this blue glow. At first, it was subtle, but it got brighter, and it got brighter. And it seemed to change or shift, reality a little bit somehow when this was happening. Like, I felt very calm, very peaceful, content. I wasn't questioning, why is my room flooding with blue light? I was just kind of enjoying it. It was strangely accepted by however they messed with me, because I know, they will influence you when you meet them. Your thoughts are not always your thoughts, although they sure seem like it. Anyhow, I started realizing that I was having trouble moving my feet, my hands, and there was this area in front of our bed that started spinning. And again, it was subtle at first, but it got brighter. And it was sort of a sepia yellow color, like parchment paper. It was spinning clockwise motion. And it was weird. And it was almost like the shape of a spiral galaxy from above. It sort of had arms to it, like spiral arms. Fibonacci pattern, if you know mathematics.
That's
so it's
sacred
spinning
geometry.
there.
Mhm.
Yes, it is a sacred geometry. Again, though, I'm not questioning anything. I'm just watching this, and I was fully awake, not asleep. Lisa was completely out. This thing opened up from the center out to the periphery. And at this point, I'm scared. It's the first time I felt scared because there's a hole in space in front of our bed, 7 feet across. And this was very dramatic, very far in the background. All it was white light that was coming out of this. And it was bright. I mean, you couldn't see the blue glow anymore. This was just like bright light. And you could see way in the background these diminutive 4 figures that were just pulling up towards me. It was almost like a Salvador Dali drawing or something. They looked half formed or something when they were coming towards me. They were not walking. It was like they were just floating up towards me. And they came out of this hole in space. There was a taller being that kept standing just behind this opening. And you couldn't really see any features on him, and he didn't move. He stood there like a sentinel. I don't know if he was if he was the guy that was doing the, telepathic stuff, or was supposed to be doing telepathic stuff. He was supposed to give me a good, positive message. He didn't do a good job, but maybe I was screaming too much in my head to hear it. I was really freaking out. They worked like a surgical team, and it was the little gray guys that you see in commercials and movies like Paul and stuff like that. Cute movie, actually. But they looked just like that, 4 foot tall, diminutive looking, half baked looking, like a child, like a baby. The mouth was like a slit. The eyes were like 3 times the size of a human eye, and perfectly black. You could see they were like mirror black. What they did was I tried to communicate with them with my mind. I knew enough about the phenomena to know that they were telepathic, but it wasn't working. I wasn't getting anything back. So I was scared. I'd read Bud Hopkins's books, right? And there's a little fear factor in those. I hadn't gotten to Dr. Mack yet, I was scared. I wasn't getting a calming message from them, like, don't worry, you're going to be all right. And I thought maybe I wasn't going to be all right. They took blood from me. They with these weird tubes that they put on my chest, and I think probably on my legs as well, although I couldn't look down. I mean, I couldn't move. I was paralyzed like a paralytic at this point. But I could sure see what was going on. It was bright in our room. I could see them in detail. They worked together, and then the tubes pulled off away from me, went back through that hole in space, and they stopped doing what they were doing, and they stood there, and then they drew back, and they left the same way that they came in. They didn't walk away. It was like they were pulled right back, and it was like somebody reeling a film back. Same thing happened with this hole that was in front of our bed. It closed up again. Again, you could see like the parchment paper color, and then it turned into a little tiny dot, like when you'd turn an old-fashioned TV set off. And then that was gone. It took a few minutes, my eyes registered again to the relative darkness. Again, the room was filled with a blue light, and I could start moving my fingers. I could start moving my arms, and I grabbed Lisa and I started shaking her, and I guess I was yelling about aliens coming into our room. And Lisa was not having it. She was not happy to hear her husband, this grown man who's, scientific background and everything else, saying the aliens were in our house. The way that she reacted, she said, "Oh my God, you've joined this crazy MUFON thing. Is this the sort of thing I have to look forward to in the future?" She turned around and went back to bed. She saw the blue glow, but she didn't ask about it. Mm-hmm. And I rolled over and I fell asleep, like exhausted. I felt drained. And I felt drained the next day. When I woke up, we didn't talk about it. Lisa didn't even bring it up. I mean, she was pretty mad. I woke her up, God forbid, she had to go to work over at she works at one of the major, movie studios out here. So she doesn't want to be woken up by a crazy man at 3 a.m. But the subject didn't come up, and I kind of kept it to myself, but I remembered everything. I remembered everything that happened. I've never been hypnotically regressed because I didn't lose any of my memory. I mean, maybe that guy that was standing there, the sentinel, maybe he was supposed to be giving me the calming message, and then maybe he was supposed to give me the gift of forgetfulness or whatever it is that they do so that people forget their experiences. He maybe was just not good at his job. So, but anyway,
Earl,
nights
Can
later.
I interrupt you? Earl, can I interrupt you? I'm interested in these tubes.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about the tubes, what they look like, and how you felt when they were on you?
I felt my blood was being taken, and they didn't leave marks. I've asked, I know interesting people. I asked one person that I know that worked over at Skinwalker and all that, and I can't even mention the woman's name. But she said that, there's other ways to take blood, the human, other than a needle, that humans and the human methods are pretty barbaric compared to the rest of the universe. So they could definitely take your blood. And I was scared that I was going to wind up like one of those cows that they find, in the animal mutilations, because I wasn't being told I was going to be okay. I mean, I read that part in Bud Hopkins stuff. It seemed like people always got a calming message, and I didn't get it. Yeah. So I was really scared. And, but 2 nights. Oh, you wanted to know about the tubes. They almost look like the astronauts, the old school astronaut tubes that they used to give them air when they were doing a spacewalk. They were large. They were like the size of a large, like a sea ship rope. That's how big they were. And they seemed, they was like a soft material kind of look to them. And I felt like it was vampiric in the moment. It really scared me. I thought that maybe they were going to, exsanguinate me, that there would be no blood left. But that's not what happened.
Well,
but they
how did you know that they were taking your blood if you couldn't see it? Could you see it in the tube?
Because I could feel it, and I could feel my head was getting very, very light, like I was fading, like I was going to pass out. Maybe I did pass out, but for a minute or something, but I have no recollection of that. Well, I mean, it's a crazy story. If it hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't believe it. I mean, maybe that's why I was targeted, I mean, I was a little rough on people if they didn't have evidence after an experience back 10 years ago.
You were?
I was a little bit. Well, yeah,
You've
yeah,
come a
sure. I was
long
very
way.
nuts and bolts. I was very nuts and bolts about it.
Oh.
And this kicked my ego off the throne, is the way I see it. You know, I thought I had it all figured out and all scientifically, and yeah, it was absurd, and it still is absurd. And this is why my wife became angry. You know, is like the Saturday Night Live skit where the woman's talking about being abducted, and at one point she said, "You sound like that woman in Saturday Night Live." You know, I had to laugh because I kind of did. Well, 2 nights later, and you know the story, but 2 nights later, the shoe was on the other foot because Lisa was shaking me awake. Shaking and shaking and shaking me, and she is mad. And she starts pacing next to the bed. And our room again is flooded with this blue light, and there's no source for it. So just that alone is anomalous. You have to have a source, and light is photonic, and it's particles or waves, whatever.
Mhm.
Anyway, won't go into physics, but you have to have a source for light. It doesn't just appear. But it was like the air again itself was illuminated. And Lisa starts saying, "Oh my God, Earl, you need to tell your little friends they need to leave us the alone, the F alone." And she's going, "I didn't sign up for this shit," And she was just livid, mad. Like I brought this on her. Well, now I felt like, well, at least she knows that I'm not insane. Apparently she's seen them too. She said, "You need to tell your little friends." I didn't tell her that they were little. I mean, I didn't describe my entities. Once she reacted the way she did 2 nights before, I didn't bring it up again. So she, I believe, had an experience that night. But again, we didn't talk about it the next day. It was almost like we came to this agreement that we don't remember, to where we didn't talk about it. And the third night, it was on the Friday. This started on a Monday night, and this was the bookend to the week. Is we both woke up, and this time it was 3 a.m. and there was a blue glow in our room. Okay, if we had entities again, I don't remember, and maybe someday I will get hypnotically regressed to see if maybe they did come in a third time. But this time our room had that blue glow, but there was this bright light that was coming through the Venetian blinds, just like this. See that? Well, imagine 3 a.m. and you have this much light. I mean, it was bright. And so I opened the blinds, and it was like God was shining a spotlight on our backyard. You could see shadows were so well delineated. It was almost like they were cut out of black construction paper and placed on the ground. Like every leaf cast a shadow. It was like a laser light, but like a laser cannon, and perfectly silent. And and we with all three of these experiences, we experienced the Oz effect. Time seemed strange. Sounds were muffled. You couldn't hear street noise, couldn't hear the crickets that we had in our rafters. It was like a studio quiet room. And the third night was no exception to that. So Lisa gets up and I get up, and we both go to the window. I drew the blinds up. We're looking at this, and you could see certain neighbors had woken up from this bright light. There was a couple porch lights that went on. You could see that going on. And we're looking at this. There's no explanation for it. And then we were both awake and watching this. So anyway, the thought went through my mind, maybe you should go outside and see if there's a craft to see it. It's like, no. I already met these guys. I don't want more blood taken. I already met these guys, and I was scared. But we're looking at this, and Lisa and I heard inside of our head, and it was megaphone loud. I don't know if it was in English, but it was you knew exactly what the words were. It said, "Don't worry, it's only the neighbor's porch light." So I was given like either a joke. Yeah, I look at it now, it's sort of like we busted up. I mean, you got Lisa, she's got a great laugh, and she, she'll laugh and laugh. It was so absurd and so funny to us. It was like a Monty Python episode joke, because it's like,
Thanks, Lisa.
obviously, yeah, there's my wife, Lisa. It was obviously not, it wasn't a helicopter. There was, you would hear rotors. It would have to have been right over the house to be that bright. And I've seen police searchlights. They're not that bright.
Did you talk to the neighbors?
And then we get this. I didn't. And this is 10 years ago. And I'll tell you, I was still kind of shy about this stuff.
Sure.
I had just become a field investigator. I wish I had, I know my old next door neighbors are still there. Maybe I should ask them. They've probably seen me on TV at this point. But no, I didn't. But, the third night we both saw what we saw. We both had a telepathic message we heard at the same time. It was either a joke or a lie meant to calm us because it wasn't a porch light. And that was what we both said out loud. Lisa and I were looking at each other, busting up. This anomalous light coming into the room. And it's like, that's no damn porch light.
Okay, I would like to look at the picture of your house one more time, because I find this very interesting, because I actually, did you drive me by your house when I was in LA? Did you?
I don't think I did.
Okay, because to me it looks like it's in a very heavily populated area.
You got out to Burbank.
Oh, okay, it's Burbank.
It is.
So it looks very.
There's no room to park a spaceship there.
Yeah. So everything you're describing, is it out of this window that we see, or a window in the back?
No, it was a window on the back. The window that you're seeing there, that's sort of almost like a skylight for the living room. But then the bedroom is a loft bedroom. You go up the stairs, and there was one window in there. That was the only window upstairs other than the one you're looking at there. And then a little tiny one on the right or the left-hand side that was where the bathroom was.
Mm-hmm.
So
you're saying there was a craft maybe hovering right over the house right there? In front of that busy area.
I believe that's, I mean, I've looked on Google Earth, and I like, did screenshots of, I actually sent them to Bob Spearing from MUFON, telling him, well, this is what it would have looked like to whoever was shining that spotlight, because this is above our old house.
You know what it reminds me of? Have you seen that series Alien Abduction in Manhattan or something like that?
Yeah.
Have you seen the series? Yeah. And so she's taken out of a high-rise window in the middle of Manhattan, and she's floating in the air, and I think 23 people saw her. And it's just shocking that they would be that daredevilish to do it right there in the middle of Manhattan.
Yeah, this is the Chandler bike path of Burbank. It's a very heavily populated area. But if they want you, they're going to get you. That's what, and I think that they shift, time and space. This other thing, the Oz effect, and I have experienced it. I've experienced it four times in my life. I experienced it again 4 years ago when I had a close encounter with a craft, and it was a daytime sighting. And again, time got slowed down, very strange. You couldn't hear external sounds. I was driving my car when I had this close encounter with a craft. And it almost felt like a checkup after 7 years or 6 years. Maybe. The same guys, maybe.
Well, maybe those tubes were a checkup too, checking up on your blood, make sure you're okay.
It could be. I honestly don't know. But I remember that when it happened, it scared me, because I was was expecting like a telepathic calming message, and I didn't get one. Now, after this all happened, The only thing that Lisa remembered was the blue glow. She didn't even remember what happened with the light and the telepathic message. That was lost to her. And it was very, very difficult because, she knew that something had happened, and she was very open-minded. She knew about my mom and her history, and Lisa is not a skeptic, but just the concept of aliens coming into your house, into your room, and interacting with you is just so left field. And when she said on that second night, I didn't sign up for this. I mean, she didn't. Yeah. The UFOs was sort of my obsession. So it was very difficult because for a long time, all she remembered was that blue glow. And it's a crazy story. I mean, I had to really, I was literally told by, my then state director at MUFON that you should keep this to yourself because you'll be ridiculed, and the ridicule could come back on MUFON, it could come back on, and I would tell my new field investigators when I was training them, I would take them off to the side and I would tell them, look, if you poke at the phenomena, it pokes back. I felt like they needed that little heads up or caveat that was fair. Because,
be careful what you wish for.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I'll have people say, well, I want to do what you did. It's like, I wouldn't recommend it, or, maybe specify who, like the tall whites or somebody, that's not going to be there completely. Yeah. And I don't know that I don't think that they were unfriendly. I think I gave them the invite, and I think I got what I asked for, but I would certainly rephrase what I had asked for in a different way now. But it seemed almost like it was not evil or good, but just kind of,
neutral,
like us, maybe.
Yeah. So what's good right now these days with all of this videos that we can make easily? We have friends, Mary and Steve Neal.
And Steve Neal.
Yeah. Who've made videos of both of our experiences. And they're marvelous. They're excellent. And
Breaking the Silence. You can go to Breaking the Silence on YouTube.
You'll see Earl's story. You'll see my story. You'll see lots of people's stories. And they're really well done. Very, very well done. And when I watched mine, it's been 7 years. And I watched he did it so well. I was triggered a little bit. I got those feelings again of the fright that I had when I looked into the eyes of the gray when he was doing something to my back and I was paralyzed. It all came to me, but then it didn't last very long. And I realized, oh my gosh, I've processed and healed so much that I can actually watch this and not freak out. I can watch this and accept it. I've done a lot of work to be able to accept what's happened. So you were telling me when you watched it with Lisa, what happened?
Well, this was after all these years where, I would tell my story at a conference or, and Lisa would listen, but it was very difficult for her. By the time I was speaking at the MUFON Symposium and things like that, Lisa was used to hearing me talking about this, but she still didn't remember anything but that blue light. We sat down and we watched the CGI film that Steve created. It's a short film. It's just 13 minutes, but it's pretty much the whole story I just told everybody out there. But he did a beautiful job. That's in his studio. He's also a model maker, special effects guy in so many films. I mean, the man worked in Ghostbusters.
Oh, he's so excellent. And here's Mary, his wife. Yeah. She's a sweetheart.
Or that right there. No, that's actually that's Susan Alloway, the Jackrabbit.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's Susan.
Yeah, that's Susan. Yeah, we just did her story. Well, I'm working with Steve now. I'm doing sound for him, and I'm working as an experiencer resource tech. I had to come up with a term because there wasn't one. But people, it's hard for them to tell their stories to a camera. So, but people kind of know that I have my background, and I've not made a secret out of it. And so I'll just have them tell the story to me, and then Steve will film that. And it seems to work really beautifully. So I'll be working the sound as a sound tech, but then they'll kind of tell the story to me.
Mm-hmm.
And but when Lisa and I watched the film that he created, it jarred her memory. We were watching the spotlight bit. Okay, and he didn't really talk about her story because she doesn't have one, just getting up and being angry, the room being blue. But when we got to the third night and that spotlight effect, Lisa is sitting there and she grabs my arm and she's going, "Oh my God, Earl, I remember this happened. My God, this happened. How could I forget this? This is crazy. This really happened." And it brought the memory back. And this is after 10 years of that
so powerful.
memory. Yeah. I know. She can't watch the movie, though, because she's afraid she'll remember more. I mean, she doesn't want to remember the little guys. I don't know if I blame her, but it was and after all these years, where I had to really be patient and loving and understanding. It's like, look, I wouldn't believe this either, because she'd get upset sometimes. When I first started telling my account, Lisa would say, "Earl, you're making stuff up. That's too," and she really, because it's absurd. But this
how did that make you feel?
Absurd.
How did it make you feel?
It made me feel really awful, but I love Lisa, and I get it. I put myself in her shoes. Oh, maybe a little bit. I mostly just felt disappointed and sad, and just really, really sad that even my wife, who I love so very much, we've been together for a quarter of a century now, that she had trouble believing. I guess sometimes when it would be really bad, I would think maybe I shouldn't have told anybody about this. Maybe I should have kept it to myself. But I'll tell you, there's a catharsis in talking about this. And when we can normalize this extraordinary thing that has happened to us, the people, the experiencers I know that are happy and successful in life, they're the ones that have wrapped their heads around their experience. So sometimes it'll come from painting it or drawing it or talking about it, but there's a catharsis in making it yours. Up until you are comfortable, facing it and talking about it or drawing it, or whatever modality you use in order to own your experience, that experience owns you. And it can scare people. I mean, that's why I think, you see people that see this as a threat and they're scared. And and I'll say, I mean, I talk with so many people that have gone through this, and there are divorces over this stuff that happen. We tend to become obsessed with it
too. I mean, not just that, but it goes all the way to the point of killing yourself because no one will believe you. Yeah.
But I think that I just innately, I knew, I mean, I love Lisa, and I understood her questioning my veracity even. And she kind of stopped doing that maybe 4 years ago or so, to where it was just like, she knows me well enough. I'm not the purveyor of crazy made up stories. I mean, she knows that I don't do that.
Yeah.
When finally Steve's film, it jarred that memory back for her. And now she knows. I mean, before it was sort of, she remembered the blue glow, and she knew that light needs a source. And she wasn't a skeptic about the phenomena. It was just the absurdity of them coming into the room and this contact thing. But I think I was targeted. It was my mom, it goes back. My mom was working with this stuff. And she was pregnant with me when she worked under the desert. And she told me that.
Yeah, I've asked you this before. Are you a hybrid?
I don't know. I can't think about it.
I think you know.
I can't think
Come
about it
on.
because do you know why? Because
I think
it
we're
would
all
make me feel
hybrids,
too
Earl.
self-conscious. I think you might be right. I think that maybe there's an awakening that has to happen.
We all have Stardust ET DNA in us.
Yes, you're
Some of us
correct.
more activated than others.
Yes.
And so you might be a highly activated hybrid.
Perhaps. Our friend Sandy Clevin, she says, I've got the secret sauce, whatever that means.
That's a funny way to
And I
put
said,
it.
all right, I'll answer to that. She'll call me Secret Sauce. But
Oh, that's your nickname. That's cute.
yeah, I like it. It's very sweet of her. So, but anyway, that's kind of if I had any core message I wanted to get out to folks, that it's just if you've gone through something like I'm talking about, just be patient, be loving, and know that eventually memories will come back. Eventually people are able to change their attitude about this. And it was very, very meaningful. We were tugging on my shirt and going, oh my God, this happened. I remember. How could I forget?
Do you have advice for family members of experiencers?
Yeah. Yes. It may sound completely nuts. And we've, for so many years, that the government used ridicule purposely to try to tamp down flying saucer reports, UFO reports, and people that had experienced the extraordinary. They want us to go to work and do our little busy work and live and die, and then the next generation does the same thing. And it looks like there's a change out there, a change of attitude. You actually hear on mainstream news sometimes about the congressional reports. And I think that so we just need to be patient, let the phenomenon be the phenomenon, not try to force it into a box or, try to hammer a flying saucer into a square hole, I think that the best thing we can do is just be honest with ourselves, own your experience. And if you're the family member of an experiencer, try to be understanding, try to be patient, and know that when you're touched by this phenomena, people tend to become very obsessed with it. It changes their lives. Their focus changes, It's a total uplift that happens.
To the whole family.
Yeah.
It could be a benefit to everybody.
Yes.
So there's some things that family members sometimes do that really hurt the experiencer from moving forward. And what are some of those things?
Just ridicule, or, I had one witness who he is a TSA agent, and he had a lifelong pattern of visitations and abductions. And he found out that his father, who he had never met, his birth father, he'd been adopted as a child. His father, who lived in Brazil, went through the exact same thing that he went through, and they actually put him into an insane asylum. That's how they treated people back in those, it's back in the 1960s, I guess. So, there's ridicule out there. There's you can talk about UFOs, these distant objects, but when you talk about, visitation and being taken, it's a whole different can of worms. And everybody involved in this, it's worth keeping your cool, being patient. I prayed a lot. I still, I pray, meditate.
Good advice. That's very good advice. Yeah. Earl, all right, we have a couple minutes left. It went by so fast. How can we see you? Where can we see you? What are you doing?
I still, I'm host of MUFON Contact Radio on KGRA on Tuesday evenings. I think is it 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time? So it'd be 8 o'clock, I guess, Eastern Time. You can also, you can Google me, Earl Grey Anderson, and all kinds of podcasts and stuff will come up. If you want to find, if told you something that is meaningful to you and you'd like to get a hold of me, I'll even dox myself. I'm Earl Grey Anderson at gmail.com. And I have people get a hold of me sometimes that way. And I care about you. I care about your experience. And it's the most important thing that's happening on planet Earth. I think it's going to transform humanity.
It's
That's what they're
number
trying to do. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's the cosmic
Grant
connection.
Cameron has been saying that for a long time. Grant Cameron has been saying that this is the number one most important topic ever, bigger than the Super Bowl.
That's true. But I don't know. The World Series was pretty good this year. My Dodgers,
Thank you, Earl.
Thank
and Happy New Year to you. Do you think we're going to get disclosure in 2025?
We are disclosure. What do you think we've been doing for the last hour?
Right.
Everybody just needs to catch up. It's already happened.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. We're so grateful.